So I'm here to talk about the election, right? Politics and mass events. So obviously on Tuesday, November 5th, we had an election here in the United States of America. And the results came, and half of the country was celebrating, and the other half is not, to say the least, right? And so I just am gonna walk you through, like, the purpose of me making this video is to share what's on my heart so that we can move forward, right? If you're listening to this and you resonate with the message that I'm going to give, then it's for you, right? So Tuesday, the prior weeks, I was definitely excited to see the first woman president. I am not like super into politics and the political landscape for many reasons of my own, which I'll actually go into. But this time I was super excited to see a woman president, and I was excited to see that because I really believe that sort of role, it not only holds power for what happens in our government, what happens internationally, right, and the future of the United States, but also what's important to me and what I see in the presidency is that it does something to the psyche of the people, because people, whether they are conscious of it or not, especially young people and children, they look at that position as a position of leadership and also as a role model, right? And so it does something to the psyche of the people to see someone who resonates or comes from a similar community as them. This time being a woman, and a woman of African descent, and a woman of color, right? And so I was excited for that. I was definitely excited for, even more so than just myself, I was excited for the future generations of young women and girls who are coming of age, right? That would have been such a pivotal moment for them and for myself and my community. And so, that didn't happen, but it is what it is, and we move on, right? We don't need, at least I don't need, right, for someone to be in a certain position for me to feel powerful within myself, right? But I want that for everyone. So we move on. But the feelings that I felt, I could not ignore, right? I felt feelings of anger, nervousness, despair. It was Wednesday when I learned about the results, the final results, and I was just like, are you serious, right? I can't even describe, because I wasn't even expecting to feel this emotion, because like I tell you, I'm not really typically into politics. I really try not to get involved in it. But I couldn't help this feeling, and I think a lot of people felt that, right? This anger. And it wasn't because of, the candidate that I wanted to win didn't win, and it was because I was flabbergasted by the display of the mindset of the American people. Like that we would make this choice, right, between someone who I feel is highly qualified for the position and someone who's not. Right? So, and it, I'm not here to debate about it. I really don't care to debate about it, but that's just what my that's where I was leaning, and I felt this sense of anger because the results show me that the mindset of people, that there's some underpinning of, me growing up in America as a woman of African descent. I always was very present to racism and systematic systems, institutionalized racism and prejudice, and that was always like at the forefront of my mind, right? Until I kind of transformed that over the past recent couple of years, and I'll go into that in another video. But what I wasn't as present to, I knew that sexism existed. I knew that misogyny existed. I experienced it in my life, of course, but I wasn't as present to the pervasiveness of sexism and misogyny in not only in this country, in this world. I wasn't so, and it just like it just like this event, it just kind of clicked my brain like like here's the world that you live in, Candice. Now I'm not trying to make anyone wrong. None of us created this. This is what we were born into, right? This kind of world. This is what we were born into. I can allow myself to feel the emotions. I can allow myself to work through it. I can allow myself to help be a change, to help bring forth transformation. But I don't like wallow in, I don't position myself as a victim of any one system or anything that occurs in the world. I just am human, and I feel emotions based on the stimuli that's presented to me. And so, those are the feelings I felt, and that's why I felt them. I thought about just the fact that this candidate ran 3 times, twice against women who are very qualified. And when he runs against women, he wins. And when he ran against a man, that's the only time he lost. So you do the math there. But that's not the point of this video, because everybody's, ranting or celebrating depending on, what your views are. And I'm not here to like add to that pot. I'm here to add a new perspective. And so I wanted to share some perspective that could help us move forward and into the future, into creating a new future. So in 2016, it was a wild political season, right? And I decided that I was not going to allow the media, politics, and all of that sort of thing to infiltrate my brain and cause me to enter into this sort of melee, this sort of vortex that at the time it downloaded to me from spirit that there was a sort of energy harvesting that goes on with that, right? When people get when there's like a huge cathartic experience amongst mass amounts of people, it creates energy. And if you don't have something constructive, something productive, something that you're birthing with that energy, or you don't have an intention for that energy. You're just like, right? In a state of grief, in a state of rage, in a state of anger, and there's no container for it. That energy is where is it going, right? Is being harvested, is being used somewhere, right? And so I felt this to be true, and I didn't want my energy to go out into the universe and not come back to me in a form where I'm producing or birthing something from it, right? And so I decided to unplug from anything that would evoke and elicit unnecessary emotional responses from me. So I didn't pay attention to news. I didn't pay, all the tweets and all the stuff that was going back and forth. From 2016 to 2020, I completely unplugged from society. And I went deep underground into my subconscious, into what makes me better, what I can do to better myself, what I can focus on, what I was trying to create, where I was trying to go. And then so by the time the pandemic hit in 2020, I was already like, oh, let's go. I'm ready. I continued the same thing. I didn't pay attention to the pandemic. I went hiking, I went kayaking, I meditated. I didn't pay attention to none of it. And I read books, and I just focused on becoming a better version of myself, and I focused on whatever it was that I was looking to manifest. And so those years from 2016 to like 2022 were like, my life did a complete 180. And I learned so much when I just took my energy and I focused it within myself rather than out in the universe, worrying about things that I couldn't control. And so I say that to say that what I've found is that sometimes it's so difficult for us to transform our lives, for us to move forward in our lives, because there's constantly a push and pull for our attention. Constant. And attention and energy and life force, that's what creates worlds. That's what creates, right? If you go outside and you see a building, right, it was energy that created that building. It was attention that created that building. It was communication. It was emotion. It was all those things that created that building. If you see someone create a movie, you watch a movie, right? That involved a lot of energy of multitudes of people, right? To create, right? Something, right? And so what a lot of us do is we are constantly giving that energy away, constantly. And there's constantly sources out there who put out stimuli to attract and harness and harvest your energy. So with that said, I'm not telling anybody what to do, right, with their lives or with their thought process or with their energy, but a suggestion based on what I was able to do from 2016 to 2022, I suggest, right, be mindful of where we are placing our energy, of our emotions, our emotional response. There's so much energy behind that, and you don't want to be focusing it somewhere and creating something that you are unconsciously creating something that you didn't consciously intend to. Because whenever mass amounts of people are focused on one thing and having a cathartic experience, especially if it's a negative emotions, right? And and not being conscious about where they're spending their energy, there's something being built. That's just how the metaphysics of the universe, that's how it responds. That's how it works, right? Even though you don't see it, right? You are giving your energy to something, and you may not like what you're giving your energy to, right? So we have the ability to create with our energy. And so part of, if you are upset, as I was, about the results of the US election, part of your rebellion and your protest is to unplug your energy. That's actually the most effective, one of the most effective uses of your energy is to unplug your energy, unplug your emotion from that particular experience, from that vortex, right? And it can be hard to do when you get swept up in it. It's like a tornado, right? But once you do that, and enough people do that, then this thing that is in the ethers, that's percolating, this entity, this non-physical entity that's eating up all this anger and rage, and you're feeding it, right? It has less of a source to tap onto. So that's one thing, right? Let's see what else we're talking about here. Be mindful of where and how we use our power, right? There's not a person outside of myself who has the power to create in my life. I can collaborate with someone. I can forget who I am and allow someone to sit on the throne of my life while I forget who I am unconsciously, right? Which is what a lot of us do when we get so caught up in public figures. But we ultimately hold power. We hold the power, not any one individual, not any system. It's your energy, it's your power being filtered into that thing. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it powerful. And so we all are the God and goddesses of our lives, right? And the only way that we can give up our power is when we put someone else on a pedestal, whether it be a presidential candidate, whether it be someone in our lives, right? Whether it be family members, friends, authority figures, bosses, this, that, right? When we put someone else on a pedestal in our minds subconsciously, and we look to them to lead us out of our personal situation, that's when we take ourselves down from the throne and we say, hey, I give you all the power. Fix it. And that's what folks on both sides of the aisle do with their candidates. Stuff is going wrong in their life, right? Okay, we know the types of circumstances that a lot of people are dealing with, right? In this country, but guess what? In other countries too, the world is dealing with, people all over the world are dealing with these same issues, right? And so I think us going into this new age, with the stars aligning, with things shifting, with Pluto going into Aquarius, and all of these transformations and shifts, one of the things that we'll need to realize is that the power is in the collective and not in one particular person or one system, and that the power starts with each individual within ourselves, right? And that we have to assume 100% responsibility for our lives, and we have to be accountable for what happens in our lives, regardless of regardless of what reality or 3D reality may look like to us, that someone else is doing something to us. The only way that we shift our lives is when we take responsibility. And if there's enough people who begin to take on that mindset and begin to move in that way, then that's when the systems that seek to harness our energy and our life force, that's when they become weaker and they eventually dismantle. And we don't have to look to another human being who's human and flesh and blood, just like you and I, which means that they're also prone to make mistakes, right? Which means that they look at the world from their viewpoint and not your viewpoint, right? We never have to look to another human being to make our lives better, right? We understand that we do that within ourselves, and we roll up our sleeves and we do the work. We do the internal work, and then we do the external work, and then we collaborate with one another in order to be able to leverage each other's skills and talents, right? To help to build a better world. And so that's what we got to move to. Like, the reason why there's such crazy heightened emotion around these political events is because people are giving their power to whoever their candidate is, and they're so vested because they've they've given their power to this person to fix whatever they think needs to be fixed, that they think will make their lives go from A all the way to Z. Life doesn't work like that. There's no one who's gonna come and wave a magic wand and make make you rich, make you healthy, make you lose weight, make you gain weight, make you get you a career that you love, like get you the love of your life. There's nobody but you. It's never ever gonna happen. Like, if waiting, like, you'll be waiting forever, I'll be waiting forever, we'll be waiting forever. And it's this constant merry-go-round of like, oh, my person won, they didn't win, oh, they did win, but they didn't win. Oh God. Elect you for president. Candice McMillian, elect Candice McMillian as president of my life. Do that. Let's do that. Let's cast the ballot. Let's hold an election. It could be just you in private, right? Just you in your bedroom. Turn off all the lights and tell everybody in the house you're sleeping so they won't bother you, and write on a piece of paper 2 ballots and put your name on each ballot. And get a little empty tissue box and put the 2 ballots in there, and then cover your eyes and pick one out and go, I wonder who's gonna be president. Oh, it's me. Yay, I won. Because that's what the freak it is. It's not all this other. It is not. At the end of the day, I know reality looks like this in front of us, but that's not reality. The reality is it's you, and you're creating it, period. So, it's the last quarter of the year, right? And the last quarter of the year, going into the holiday season and then going into the new year, whoever knows when the New Year is, but the New Year holiday is a very potent time of the year in terms of energy. And what we're supposed to be doing traditionally, we're supposed to be doing what we see the other mammals do, because we're also still animals, right? We have our animal nature and our God nature. A lot of us are, that's what this whole transformation is about, us transforming into, to integrate our animal and our God nature. But a lot of the mammals, the bears, the deers, the whatever, what do they do in the wintertime? Like, what are they preparing to do right now? We're in fall, right? We're about to go into winter. They are gorging on food, right? And a lot of them are they're going to mate, and then they're going to hibernate. And they hibernate throughout the winter with their brand new babies, or they're pregnant, right? With possibility, right? You get the metaphor, right? The winter time is, if you study nature, you see that that's what happens, is that we are supposed to go into a meditative state. We're supposed to wind down. We're supposed to slow down a little bit. Right now, we're supposed to be starting to think about what we want to manifest for the new year. What does my life look like in 2025? Like, write that down on a piece of paper. That's what we're supposed to be thinking about right now. To take that energy, take that anger, whatever it is that you're feeling, and transmute it through a hard pivot, and shift it to write down a piece of paper. What does my life look like in 2025? And whatever you write down on that paper, and that you're serious about, right? That you're serious about, and that you're practical about, that's what you're pregnant with going into the last quarter of the year. Not some political candidate. Because then what you're doing is you're seeding something for that political candidate and the system and the energy that they represent. And that's not what you want. Hello, that isn't what you want, right? That's why you voted the way you did. That's why you wanted the outcome that you did. So that's obviously not what you want. So now you gotta impregnate yourself with what it is that you want to manifest, and then you gotta be president of your life and go manifest that, and use the energy, the high spiritual energy of the wintertime to formulate in your subconscious mind and seed in your subconscious and your conscious mind how that's going to look, and your strategy, how you're going to execute on that, and getting yourself to believe that will come to pass. That's where we need to place our energy. So just like, our mamas used to say, cry for 2 seconds, cry for a day or two, and then move on to the next thing. And it's really important that I share that, because not everyone is conscious about how to use their energy, and so it can go not being conscious about how we use our energy can go so many different ways, and often it's in detriment to us. And so it was important that I share that. I had one other thing. See if I remember. I think that's it. Yeah. That really is it. That really is it. That's it. Just take that energy. Take that cathartic experience and go to work. Go to work here, right? That's what the winter season is for. That's what the late fall going into winter, early spring. That's what it's for. Go to work here. Turn off the news. Turn off the TikTok, the YouTube. Unless it's mine. You know what I'm saying? Filter. What I'm saying is filter what you put in your brain, right? During this time, just put the things in your brain that you wish to manifest, because the news cycle over the next couple of months into the next year is gonna be on fire with all kind of nonsense. Trust me. And I unplugged from it for about 6 years. And that was the best thing I ever did in my life. And I was very, very, very meticulous about who I listened to and what I chose to participate in. But this is what happens in life. Like when you read a story, a dramatic story, you always need a villain. A protagonist always needs an antagonist. Like, that's how you have a good story, right? And so, of course, what else happens in the story? That the antagonist helps the protagonist, or the superhero, the villain helps the superhero to tap even deeper into their power, right? So they can be victorious in the end. That's what all the daggone stories, that's the premise, that's the plot of all the best stories that you've ever possibly read, or movies that you've ever seen that are drama, superhero stories, fairy tales. That's the premise of all of them. You got a villain, you got a superhero, you got an antagonist, you got a protagonist, and that sandpaper helps to make things smooth eventually, right? And so that's the job of a villain. So when you get a villain in your life, right, you say thank you. I know now, I've had so many villains in my life. So now I understand. Now when I get a villain, I'm like, oh, I must be ready for this. I must be being prepared for the next level. Okay, got it. I'm on assignment. And that's just what it is. So I love you. Stay empowered out there. Stay elevated. And stay centered. Stay grounded. Ashe.